Welcome to the Page One Podcast, a twice-weekly podcast featuring a variety of guests and thought leaders on topics ranging from channel strategies to tariffs, influencer marketing, best-in-class product launches, and all the details about how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers, or what we call R-commerce. Now here's your host, Luke Peters.
Thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast. I am your host, Luke Peters. This is the podcast where I bring you the best and brightest leaders to share consumer product sales and marketing strategies that will help you grow your business. I am the CEO and founder of Newer Appliances, where I cut my teeth selling products online, and now I've started Retail Band, where I hope to help other brands succeed in product launches, influencer marketing, and B2B online sales strategy. And right now I'm offering a free evaluation of your online sales strategy. If you're interested, find me on LinkedIn or email me at luke@retailband.com. We can look at your digital strategy, website strategy, email, and especially your influencer marketing strategy. So go ahead and find me at luke@retailband.com and we can connect there. In this episode, you're going to learn from Helen Fu Thomas. Helen is an entrepreneur, leader, innovator in the consumer packaged industry. She has developed product strategies from concept to mass market. For the last 17 years, she has experienced growing business in technology, digital media, and artificial technology. Helen holds an MBA from the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. And on this episode of the Page One Podcast, we're going to focus on demand generation and branding for CPG products. Helen, thanks for joining me today on the Page One Podcast.
Hi, Luke. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And before we get started, Helen, you've got a really unique story because you immigrated from Beijing, China. So really looking forward to hearing your perspective on what challenge that might have been and, how that just turned you into the person and successful leader that you are today.
It is an interesting journey indeed, because I think one of the comments I got from some executives from China or abroad is that lots of immigrants from China, they came in, they focus on careers that, professions that use skills, that's being accountant, being engineer, being doctor, being a marketing executive that understanding or promoting products, especially innovative products in the culture that is quite different from my background. It's been a thrilling career for me.
Awesome. And that's why, I'm looking forward to this episode because I love talking about marketing and you have a lot of experience to draw from. And for the audience, so again, we're going to talk about demand generation and branding. And currently, Helen is at a company called DMAI Inc., which she'll give a brief explanation of. But I thought it's really interesting here as well for parents because they have created an interesting product that is going to help with childhood learning. And Helen's currently working to get this product into some of the largest mass retail and other children's brands and stores that you all have heard of. So going to be a cool episode with a lot of different angles that we can talk about. And I guess, Helen, why don't we start with that? Let's go ahead and briefly explain what DMAI does so the audience knows about this company.
Thank you. DMAI stands for Dark Matter Artificial Intelligence. And if you go to our website, dm.ai, you see the starry skies, and we talk about all 6 disciplines in artificial intelligence. And I'm the first to admit that the general public may or may not have the best ideas or the best impressions of AI as it's positioned for automation to display jobs. And it's like a black box. You don't quite understand the logic about it. But as we are the leader with over 300 engineers, PhDs, research experts, in this, we try to approach it in a general cognitive way, meaning that we pay attention to the cognition and how people learn. And we started with the first product for toddlers. It will go to preschool. It goes to K-12. So it's quite a journey, and it's really exciting for an AI company to have a mission to lift humanity and understanding the insights, applying the insights to technology that help people learn naturally.
Great. So, and then let's fill in some of the gaps for this company, Dark Matter Artificial Intelligence. What are the total number of employees?
We have over 300 people and the majority of them are PhDs, a master degree graduates in artificial intelligence, computer science, natural language processing. Great talents in this company doing research and development.
Wow, that's a ton of talent. And where is the company located?
We are in Los Angeles, in the neighborhood of UCLA. We hire lots of talent from Silicon Valley, from Ivy League schools, as well as from USC, UCLA, and lots of talent. And also we hire people overseas as well.
Great. And right now you're CMO and Chief of Staff. So that's that's an amazing title to have with such a talented team. Does the company sell other products already, or is this a startup that's creating this product? Because that's a large headcount there, and curious if you guys already have something else going, or if this is your first major product release.
We take the mission very seriously, and if you look at artificial intelligence, lots of people or companies chose to focus on a specific area, machine learning or, big data for enterprises, medicine, certain aspects. Or if you look at, Echo or Siri type of thing, it's natural language processing, and then literally is doing your search online by having a dialogue, but it has no logic, it has no common sense. Our approach is really to build common sense and using small data for big tech. We have an ebook on our website if anybody is interested. I don't want to go through, all of that because we're talking about go-to-market branding and a channel strategy here. So with that said, my responsibilities in the past 9 months was really to create the product strategy, given everything I've done in my career, and have a holistic product strategy. So we're really looking at the toddler, preschool, K-12, healthcare, a lifelong journey, and how we could help and make your life better and hold you to the path so that you'll be healthier, you'll be happier, you'll be more successful. It's a big mission with a lot of support.
Yeah. And so is the product available for sale right now, or is it still in the, pre-sale stage? Animal
Island Learning Adventure Sit and Play is a toddler product. It's the first product we launched with pre-orders back in November. When we launched the pre-orders, we also had a national social campaign called America's Got Baby. America's Got Baby is for parents to share the joyful moments with their toddlers. And we selected winners from all over the country. And one of the lucky winner, who's the grand prize winner, will have a free package to go to Disneyland, come to Hollywood, and film our commercial. So our products are already shipped to pre-order customers. We're in the final stage of development. So I consider some of the products to be, the current products are still in beta. But since CES have been on the roadshow, I'll have a media roadshow in New York in a couple of weeks to really get into the channels. And I think that's what we're going to talk about mostly today.
Awesome. Okay. Now I wanted to ask that just because I know, there's a lot of parents. I'm a parent and there's a lot of parents listening. And so whenever I hear about someone making a product that, is going to help kids, I think, we want to highlight that because I know right now, I don't want to go off on a tangent. I always seem to do on these podcasts. YouTube is like the medium right now for a lot of kids. And the problem is there's just a lot of, crazy stuff there mixed in with the good stuff. And so it's hard to protect the young kids, especially. So that's great. We'll move on to the subject, but I think it's definitely encourage people to check out the website and look at this product because, when that many smart people are putting something together to keep, kids' minds healthy and safe, I think it's a great purpose. So cool for you to work at a company that's doing that.
Thank you.
Let's transition here. So you talk a little bit about this before we get into the subject. You came from Beijing, China. You have an international finance degree, and now you're doing marketing. Quickly, how did you make that transition?
I came aboard to pursue MBA degree. And luckily, many, many years ago, in 1994, I got my first job offer from Chuck Smutney, who was the head of sales at S&W, which is now part of Del Monte. So a consumer packaged goods, 100-year-old brand for a young adult coming to this country. I got the opportunity to really learn from the best. And really, I want to talk about data. Data didn't just start today. We just have more computer power and more ways to collect data. But even back then, when we sold into, Safeway, Price Club, or Costco, or even overseas, I think the first thing I've learned is really about the data analytics. For anybody to sell into channels, if we don't understand demand generation and the sell-through, we wouldn't succeed. Channels are just carrying and the sell-through, and it's really up to the brand and the manufacturer to create the story and the demand and the problem solving for the products to fly off the shelf.
Well, that's a good segue, because I wanted to kind of let's move into demand generation, and would love to hear your take on it, because you've worked with some large brands and even the company you're at right now, with a very big vision. But what are 3 things that companies are not doing well but should be doing, with regards to demand generation?
I think there are 3 things, when you said 3 things, yes. Number one, if we are talking about a new brand, then we can shift to more established brands as well. You have a great idea and you're solving a problem. And how you tell that story and get the mass market adoption. There's always the early adopter to the mass adoption. And really, think outside your own perspective and understand the perception and understand that it takes a consistent, repetitive, like people have to hear and see you 7 times to really buy into whatever you're saying, right? So I think one of the things that's lacking with a lot of entrepreneurs who really understand that methodology. And it's a playbook. I keep telling people there is a playbook. You watched Super Bowl last night, right? You've got to execute your play. And that's number 2, I think, really is to understand your channel partners. I call them partners, right? They're not there to buy and sell. They're there to give you the additional presence and reach broader audience. It's still your number 1 responsibility to communicate to that audience and establish that brand. I think number 3 is really about innovation. It's really about understanding the insights, what problem we're trying to solve, and how to communicate that. And a lot of the established brands need to learn from entrepreneurs to look at what is still missing, right? And what's new versus the same old thing over and over again.
Yeah, and I like number 2 there was interesting. So because, so we're talking about, if you can imagine, a lot of the audience here might be, some brands that are going to display at the IHA Houseware Show or at the Home and Hardware Show in Vegas, obviously CES, but these are, consumer product brands. And your comment about that working with your channel partners, you still have to be the one selling. I mean, they're there because they have maybe a larger engaged audience, but the brands, you shouldn't rely on them for selling. Was that kind of your point there? And if not, then what should brands be doing on top of just listing their product with these channel partners?
They are selling, but it's really your brand and the storytelling as your responsibility. As I said, it's a partnership. We started pre-order online and crafting our messages. We did a social campaign in order for people to understand our philosophy as a parenting and raising that joyful a child, after that child can set up and when the child is exploring the world, to really kind of connect directly to the end users as well as mostly the customers, which are the moms and dads and grandparents, right? And just revisit and reiterate that story and until that story is crystal clear, because the people have very limited bandwidth today. Every impression is precious because you are competing against so many things online. And having that already crafted and proven as we got our first pre-orders. So when I sit down at CES and I had closed door conversations with distributors And the retailers, we already surrounded them with the visual that has been working, with the story, with the pitch, right? Within that 2 minutes elevator pitch, I already grabbed their attention. They understand exactly what the problem we're solving. So these are essential parts for you to be in the door. Like after our conversation, I'm going to step into the buyer's office. I have the meeting set up in Minneapolis. We're ready to go. We have the product in beautiful packaging. We have proven user cases. We have social media presence, and we have merchandising and a digital strategy to support that mass retailer to convert. So it's really about customer acquisition all around.
That's a great answer. But kind of getting, I guess, more tactical. So when we're talking about that you're telling the story and you're talking to that end user or that end customer, what is the way that you've had success, or how are you doing it, with this current product that you guys are going to be, offering soon or creating right now? Is that through content on, children's channels? Is that through certain social media platforms? Is that through paid advertising? Maybe all of the above, but like specifically what might be ways that you've found to economically connect with the end user? Because that's always the question, because it can be so expensive sometimes, to get those eyeballs.
Right. That's a very good question. It could be a very long answer. I'm going to try to keep it brief.
Sorry about that.
No. Believe it or not, I think what I have been successful is to connect with the brightest people, from technology to product to, marketing. If you look at my team, I have a product marketing, the best people that really understand the problem solving. And I have, award-winning marketers, marketing communication people. I have my insights. I have my process in terms of naming. If you look at DMAI, and you look at AILA, Animal Island Learning Adventure, AILA, and Maya. Maya is going to be our more of a K-12 version, adult version of intelligent assistant for your life journey. Right. I think if there is a consistency in your culture, in your value proposition, and from there, all the exposure we're creating on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Pinterest, and they're targeting the specific audience, and they're creating the messaging. What we talked about the Super Bowl last night is about family time. It's the image of parents with a boy watching joyfully the biggest game of the nation. So the consistency in terms of communicating on Martin Luther King Jr. Day about education, about lifting humanity and solving inequality in this country. So I think that fundamental piece as a CMO, as the chief of staff, to get the whole team behind it. And then when it comes to the solution, why the toddlers? The simplest thing to say is we want to provide the toddler the curated, the intelligent content, like feeding your toddler the baby food before the toddler is exposed to junk food. At that moment, the child is already trained to understand what is good for him or her versus just anything, right? In today, on the tablet today, it's so agnostic. Anything could hit you at any time, which is really scary. So I think then with the presence, right, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, we track data every day, like how many emails we got signed up, how many conversions we've got, how many people drop out of our shopping cart, how we bring them back, how we improve the presentation, the content online, and how we present to the trade, meaning retailers. Our next step is, Amazon Online. We're putting lots of effort behind that. But you cannot go to the market with the Army without air coverage. So the way I describe to our co-founders who are really from the academia world, who never did this before, is you have to have an Army, you have to have air coverage, right? And you have to have some special forces that can really go behind enemy lines and make things happen. I mean, this is a whole sort of a playbook, right? And how you make that touchdown, you have to make the first step first. So I'm happy to, dive into any of the details with your questions. I just don't want to go just on and on talking about this because I could do this all day long.
That's funny. You have to have your air defense and then go behind enemy lines. I like that visual. You mentioned a couple things, Facebook ads and Google ads, and there's so many different things that a marketer could use, right? Some of them are paid. Some of them is like content creation, press releases. And then even with a company like yours, if you have a larger budget, maybe there's like big media that you can get involved in. Why don't we talk specifically about Amazon? It looks like that you just mentioned you're going to be launching on Amazon. Is there a certain strategy you're going to be using? I mean, with Amazon, it's a lot of potentially you have to spend a lot of AMS dollars, or maybe you're sending third-party traffic to your Amazon page, or anything. Curious what you want to say about your Amazon strategy there.
Right. I think over time, Amazon has become such a launch channel because even people shop in brick and mortar would go to Amazon to look at customer reviews, right? So this is probably the third or the fourth company that I launched on Amazon after, the digital presence of our own website. And Amazon has so many tools, especially if you get, on the launch pad, they have so many tools to help you to create that digital presence as effective. And Amazon has natural traffic. More people are shopping on Amazon than any other retailer, I'd say, in this country. So I think first is the content and effective content that's already proven and tested, and also a close partnership with the Launchpad, with the Seller Central, with the people that at Amazon and also the brand registration. I mean, now they're more interested in protecting our brand as well as theirs, right? And having that presence established and drive traffic there from both, our own website to let people be aware that it's now available online, and to try to get, the best reviews as soon as possible, which is really to drive the traffic there and convert people and to build that day by day. Customer service is very, very important outside the ad spending. I think without their solid, customer support already established, I think is risky, especially if your product involves technology and people may have lots of questions. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, that's a good, well-rounded explanation. It sounds like you're going to be selling on Seller Central, which makes sense because then you can, maintain the pricing strategy. And then obviously this is going to be a product launch. So I guess what rolls into this, my next question would be around product launches. So Helen, you've done a lot of product launches in the past and now you're going to be doing another one here. What are, really bringing it down to maybe 2 to 3 things that businesses are not doing on their product launch, but they should be doing?
I think pretesting, in old days when I was at the CPG company, we call it the test marketing. You go to Sacramento, you get the local market, and you put something out there and see what works or doesn't work. It's almost like today, the whole country is watching Iowa. How people are reacting to the presidential candidates, right? But today you can have a much better read on your customers with crowdfunding, with pre-orders. I think be very, very brutal on yourself and ask yourself the toughest questions about how it could work better. Stay on the positive side instead of saying what is not working, like how can we make it better, right? And not reactive. You have to be very, very strategic in that process. You have to believe in what you created with the foundation of the branding and the solution. Don't just take all the negatives very personally, because there are lots of people giving you negatives on social versus the positives, right? You have to look beyond that. So I think the pre-marketing, the testing is very important. That gives you really proven copy. Copy, I'm saying now to just the content, but the visual. And I think the second part is the visual asset, the commercials, the longer versions of talking about products. We do video shoot, probably if it's not every month, not every week, probably every other week. We have rich content created internally. We still have video photographers, and we are going to have one of the predominant producer in Hollywood to create our commercial. We invest in that, not because we have a ton of money, but because we believe in the quality and that process. So having all that assets to enrich your digital presence, to have that social dialogue, to pay attention to the social dialogue, and having influencers. For example, for us, Tiffany Crewman, who's one of the first, actually, she was the first winner on Shark Tank. And she has her baby girl, and her first product was for children, and having those allies on your side. So all that preparation and the diligent work to build that marketing war chest, in addition to the budget, is very important. Without the content, without the visual, without the storytelling, without the influencers, it's very difficult to validate what it is and why people should buy it.
That's a great answer, by the way. I love it. So pre-testing, and then of course creating amazing visuals, but you went into detail about how, you have your videographer and all the shoots that you're doing, and then the folks that you're working with, to make sure that that content and those assets get in the right hands. Quick follow-up question though. I like your thought and kind of logic about the pre-testing, and I think this is a good one because, for this audience, a lot of companies, there's a lot invested in that product creation and then that product launch. And it's hard to do pre-testing sometimes because, we don't want to send out a product that's half-baked. It has to be that final product. So, often, at least, in my circles, a lot of us are not doing pre-testing. We're doing this development. Maybe there was research into the product, but then that product launches and we just launch it. What is like a specific advantage of doing that pre-testing and pre-launch? Like you get this information, and then what are you able to do with it? Do you make product changes, or is it more that you're making changes on the product messaging and marketing?
I think today's crowdfunding would allow you to speak to a very broad audience with not just a concept, but a prototype. Creating that video and what that user experience, what problem solving it is critical. My previous company, we had, over 500,000 views before we even started the pre-orders on Indiegogo. And it's such a compelling story, with very low budget production. So your vision really drives that, and communicating that effectively is important. So you could test that marketing messaging even before you have the physical product out there. So when I talk about that testing, is really to get the concept out there and get a validation. And you could actually help fine-tune the features and highlight the features, improve the features by, looking at the feedback. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Yep.
And at the same time, we bring the product out. We ship beta products to pre-order customers, and we give pledges. It's overwhelmingly heartwarming when right before Christmas, many employees in the company paid out of their own pockets and pledged products to the social media participants, the families around the country who didn't win the prizes, but our employees actually paid for the products to be shipped to these people who participated in our social campaign. And that goodwill allow us to share the first production product and put it out there with very low risk, because they're genuinely interested in, benefiting from the product and giving their positive feedback, even though they may have some issues, right? So creating that community and supporting that brand is the first step. And that is before your massive launch, before you invest, millions of dollars in the production of, thousands of products, you already know what works and what could work better.
Great answer. So, just to summarize there for the audience, if you haven't worked with Indiegogo, check it out. Crowdfunding allows for very inexpensive reach to a lot of eyeballs, especially if you have an innovative product that you're able to, build that excitement around, and you can do that on a low budget. So I love that. We've got a couple of our own products coming out this year for New Era that I'm already. It's something we haven't done in the past, by the way, Helen. And so I'm looking at it this year. And the funny thing is that I'm glad you brought it up, because I actually have a guest in a couple of episodes that we're going to focus around crowdfunding and his success on Indiegogo. So great topic, a lot that I can learn on it. And that's oftentimes how I like to kind of find guests for the Page One podcast. So selfishly, I can, increase my knowledge on marketing and just have these fun conversations. But that's great, really tangible. So thanks for bringing that one up. Why don't we transition to talking about your team? You've been a leader or have had leadership positions in several companies. And specifically, I love kind of understanding org charts and whatever you're able to share. But I guess here it's like, who's on your team right now, and talking about the org chart and how you manage branding throughout the organization.
That's a great question. I came in a company with, 300 people, and I had no direct reports. So my mission or my responsibility is to, create that business case and establish that strategy, and eventually, have my team, right? It's like, entrepreneurs pitch to investors, and I literally came in to pitch to the board and say, hey, I think this is how we should go to market, right? Over time, with the development, connecting the dots between the science to the technology to the product, they're really understanding what different engineering groups or R&D groups are doing, and doing lots of research on the competitors, having conversations with channel partners whom I know very well, and forming that strategy. So today, we have over a dozen people on my team. They are very senior people. They are the best at what they're doing. We have product marketing with educators, with creative people who have worked at Leapfrog. I was at Leapfrog at the beginning of my career, by the way. At Pearson, who has, Pearson has been one of the most respected publishers in the world. Having that core, product marketing leadership to design the curriculum, the content, the impact, right? And the content from that to apply to marketing communications. On my marketing communications, I have a creative director who has been agencies, who's positioned in Chicago, but he's one of the most brilliant creative director in the country. And paired him with a Columbia, professor in literacy and educator for his lifetime, Dr. Kapoor, who's on the East Coast. And they're generating that nonstop content from the blog to social to the website to, copies for packaging and parenting guide and the parenting app itself. Having a developer group that has tremendous experience working on different technology in the past. And, we retired executives from Apple and, having a very rich resources to get the user experience right, working with the young developers and engineers within the company so that we can have a more holistic view to the user experience. And really the sales team, the channel team. I'm with my head of sales right now, and we have been on a road show. Also, the outsourced the PR agency. I'm going to be on a media roadshow, media tour in 2 weeks in New York, starting in New York. And having all that, the brightest mind and what you are doing, digital marketing. And people have done Amazon. People have done these kind of launches in their career and bring them in, reporting to me directly. I have a very flat organization. I just had my all hands team call, this morning before our call, before our conversation right now. Having that team and the playbook, and I told them, I'm not Patrick Mahomes, but I am the quarterback of the team. So
after last night's game, you want to say that you're aligned with Patrick Mahomes. Somehow he came back with 7 minutes ago. That's funny.
It's such epic win for Kansas City. I was really thrilled for them, even though, I'm from the Bay Area. We had in the 49ers.
Oh, that's right. You got to be careful what you say over there.
Exactly. But, we have to recognize the talent. We have to, applaud success, right? And, understand competition. So the team, we had a summit, and they presented it to the board, and we shared materials throughout the company. I think for the company to understand where we're from and what the brand speaks for is very important.
Yeah, and thanks. That's a really complete answer. And to kind of boil it down, the things I took out of that is, you started with no reports, and now you've got 12, and it seems like your whole career, you've been able to, kind of climb these mountains and really succeed in new challenges that you've had. And, you talk about creative director and that you have a very flat organization. And also kind of what came out of that is, you outsource to get the best talent when you need to, and bringing in different agencies. And you talk about a PR agency or a professor that you're working with. So that's cool. I know a lot of companies aren't going to have the budget to have what you have, which it sounds like you guys have like the dream team, but still, I think the lessons that companies can take from that are those elements that I just brought up about, the flat organizational structure and just waiting to hire until you can hire the best folks. And it sounds like you've done that. So congratulations there.
Thank you.
Helen, what is, and like we talked about, the theme of this with demand gen and branding, but beyond that, I mean, you've worked in other capacities and had obviously your challenges and successes. What has been maybe your biggest failure, something that was really tough, but something that you've learned from and maybe the audience can learn from?
So I want to say this in the right way, and that's a great question. And I always would tell my team, we trip, we don't fail. Meaning we learn, right? You always can do better. Right? But we don't fail because we are persistent, we have resilience, and we always, pick ourselves up and keep going. So I think if you would really say what my biggest failures is really the perception of what we can do in terms of we actually are doing. So we're capable to achieve lots of things. I've been, on the road raising money for my own company. I was hired to be in to prove myself. So how can I do a better job for people to have faith in what we're doing, right? Is that I appear to be more too confident, or is that how I could, communicate better so that we have more of a credibility up front instead of we have to prove ourselves over and over again, right? So as we're marketers, we always think about how can we be perceived as who we are and have that strength, have that projection, and so that we can, build that traction even faster. I think that's what I really want to improve.
Great. Thanks for that. And what is a habit that you've picked up? Maybe it's reading, maybe it's a morning ritual, maybe it's something in your life that you're doing now that maybe you weren't doing, 5 or 10 years ago. And from this, it's really helped you become a better person at home or work.
I think there are a few things. I was one of the first, technology adopters. When I was at my first job, I was the first one ever had a laptop, right? And I did real-time data analytics in front of a whole audience a product review, right? And then over time, everybody is equipped with technology. We have multiple devices, and we are constantly online, connected, answering emails and all of that. I think the new ritual I actually have is that stay connected with your people, having the conversation, communicate, directly, and not necessarily all through email and text. You'll be amazed how much you can achieve with the human beings that you could just have a direct conversation with. And that's why I'm the one on the road, in the cold around the country and meeting all my channel partners. That face-to-face is so critical, no matter how much of a digital presence we're building in today's world.
That's a great answer. That like they say in sales, there's nothing beats that face-to-face contact, and and like you said, stay connected, communicate directly. I couldn't agree more. And even just for company culture, communication is always an area that companies can improve on. And so, as we as leaders try to improve that culture, we can start with communication. So great, good answer there. And I really want to thank you, Helen, for joining me today on the Page One podcast. How can listeners get a hold of you or learn more about you and what you're doing?
I'm at DMAI Helen at the DM, dark matter, dm.ai. And come to our website, download our ebook about cognitive AI. We are here to educate. We are here to learn. And thank you so much, Nick, for having me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. And it's such a pleasure, speaking with you.
Likewise, I really enjoyed the conversation. I will buy this product. I can guarantee you that, because I've got kids and my sister and brother as well. So I'm really looking forward to it. Anytime companies are putting their time into creating something that's going to, make the next generation better and keep them safe, I think it's a great purpose. So thanks for doing that. And again, want to thank you for being on this episode of the Page One podcast, sponsored by Retail Band. And quick reminder that I am offering a free evaluation of your online sales strategy. We can take a look at your digital strategy on Amazon, Home Depot, Wayfair, and other online retailers. We can review product listings using our selling tools. I'll present those findings directly to you. And again, big focus on if influencer marketing is right for your product brand as well. So if you're interested, find me on LinkedIn or email me at luke@retailband.com. I appreciate every one of you that listens, and your comments, your suggestions, and your reviews. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Page One podcast with Luke Peters. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our other segments. Also, please help us out by leaving us a rating on iTunes. Want to learn more about our commerce? Check out www.retailband.com to get more great tips and tricks on how to accelerate your e-commerce sales with the big box retailers.